Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. Gain valuable insights by attending the podcast, then complete the assessment test to download your certificate. To do this, follow these simple steps. Click on the link in your description to access the session. Create a free account and attend the podcast. After the podcast, take the assessment test and download your certificate. It's easy, and it's free. We highly recommend checking out our subscription. Let's get started.
Now, you mentioned that you got a small firm, you got 6 people on your team, but you cannot scale advisory if it's just you or the partner doing the work, right?
Sure.
So how do you bring your team along on this advisory journey?
So that's our next big step. And I'll be honest with you, right now I'm having too much fun delivering the advisory, and I don't mind delivering the advisory. I'd rather step out of the other services and move more into just advisory delivery as I start to look at where my journey, my individual personal journey needs to go. But really, it's we don't have the lower staff yet to be able to bring them up to deliver advisory. That is the next step in our firm's internal journey, is to start to find those right people that we're going to be able to do the knowledge transfer. The way that I think of doing it is like, if anything else, is you bring them along, you allow them to shadow what you're doing, and you start to let them, and then it's a process, right? They shadow you. Then all of a sudden you take a back seat, they lead the journey, and then they're off on their own. So it's going to be a long process once we start to find the right staff to go ahead and do that. But right now it hasn't been much of an issue as a sense of the delivery of the advisory. The other part of it is some of our advisory is very basic and can be delivered almost by anybody that has an understanding of being able to teach and to educate clients, because it is very basic. Some of it can be considered very basic knowledge, and very little knowledge is needed, except for the upper end, which is always where I'll have to play.
Welcome back to another episode of We're Trying to Figure Out. I'm your host, Saul, and today I'm joined by someone who really embodies the shift we are seeing in the accounting profession, from compliance first to advisory first. My guest today is James Lopiccolo, co-founder and CEO of Capricor Professional Advisors. Jamie has built his firm on 5 key pillars and has been helping clients not just file their returns, but reshape their businesses through proactive listening and advisory. James, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Saul. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Now let's start with your journey. You founded Capricor back in 2017 and later merged with Knock Accounting in 2021. So what made you take the leap to build something new instead of following the traditional CPA firm playbook?
Sure. So I've been in public accounting since I was 17. So back in 1989. So it's been 38 years now is been the journey I've done. And we've always been in small business. So always been working, never worked at a big firm, always worked at a local firm. And over the last 4 years with another firm, I started kind of not being able to sleep at night, kind of wondering, are we doing the right thing by our clients? What was I felt that we were missing something when it came to servicing our clients, and really kind of was worried about, are we being proactive enough? Are we kind of listening to our clients and understanding, or are we just waiting for them to come to us and just being compliance people? And you start to look at the landscape of of what I, at that time, going back 8 years, of what I saw. The landscape of the profession was that we're starting now to get disruptors in our profession with online, and you're starting to see other companies that may or not be CPAs, but that are providing very good tax and accounting services to their clients for a cheaper price and so forth, and said, okay, it's time for us to really start to shift out of just being compliance only and start to look at how do we add this advisory piece, or how do we fulfill that destiny of being the most trusted advisor to our clients. And
Right.
the firm I was at wasn't really interested in doing that, because I felt there were several different key steps we needed to do. One of the biggest ones in my mind was to eliminate the timesheet and stop worrying about billing by time, and valuing our what we do to our clients by the time that we spent with them, as opposed to the solutions we provide them. And
Yeah.
so I started to look out to that and said, okay, I've got to, if I'm going to do this, I can't do, and actually I interviewed with several different firms, and in the process before jumping out on my own. And during those interviews with other firms, I just realized that, everybody wants to do that, but they don't know how to do it, or they don't want to try to make the step to do it. And I said, the
Right.
heck with it. I'm going to do this on my own. And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. All right, fantastic. And you mentioned the Capricor was built on 5 pillars, right?
Yeah.
So can you walk us through those? I think a lot of our listeners will resonate because too many firms are still stuck in the compliance heavy model and miss the bigger roadmap.
So just as an overview, our 5 pillars are leadership, tailored services, peace of mind, fee transparency, and proactiveness. And they all, excuse me, they all come together in kind of in a little bit of an overlapping in one arch. But under the leadership, it's again, leadership and proactiveness are very closely related in my mind. Is we're taking, by being proactive, we're taking the lead of our clients' businesses and assisting them. We're helping them find solutions before they even see that there's a problem, or that maybe there's a slight sense of a problem before it becomes anything bigger. We're taking the lead on how do we solve and do that, or how do we help them become better business owners and so forth through some of our advisory offerings. And that leads into the tailored services for us. Those tailored services are, we don't, although we have standard set of services, how we combine them as a service group to our clients is going to be different based upon their needs. And really where we do, again, and falling back on that leadership side, when we meet with the client, we go through and kind of figure out where their pain points and what they need, and so and go through that. But we really come back with saying, this is what you need. We are the experts. And so we're kind of telling them what they may not know that they need a little bit, because we know that where they want to go, and that we have to deliver a certain set of services to them, whether it be your choice of entity, cash flow planning, or succession planning, or as some sort of estate or after tax growth plan, so forth. We're kind of tailoring all of those advisories to their specific businesses. And peace of mind, that one is just, it's kind of they come to us because a lot of clients have some sort of financial pain, or they have some sort of fear of the accounting or the tax man, right? Everybody's afraid of the tax guy. And so we make sure that in our tax offerings that we do provide that peace of mind, that things are going to be on time, they're going to be right. We're going to provide you, we're going to be ahead of the game when it comes to knowing where your numbers are for December, or I'm sorry, for April. We're going to let you know in December. So we're giving you that peace of mind of where to go, and how we work with you, so that you know that things are being done behind the scenes. And then under the fee transparency, this I think was the biggest step for us. And I think this is the biggest problem with a lot of firms nowadays is again, we got rid of the hourly timesheets. We give our clients their upfront pricing before we even start the engagement.
Right.
We give them an idea of where the fees are going to be, especially on the businesses side. We go through a proposal process and say that this, based on the scope that we've defined that we're going to do for you. And again, that's that leadership. We tell them what we're going to do, and then we price it accordingly, and then do it on a 12-month contract, or whatever is applicable to the particular client, so that they know. And then if they ever call and say that we have a change or we something, then we tell them, well, for us to do that change, we're going to give you an upfront idea of what that is. I felt as we started this journey, the timesheets were so punitive and prevented people from being proactive, because I know a lot of advisors, and especially advisors that maybe hear this, say, yeah, we want to be advisors to our clients. And the client's response to that, yes, I want you to be an advisor, but clients have budgets. And then they go, well, how much is that going to cost me for you to be advised, to meet with me on a quarterly basis or monthly basis? And the typical response under the old model is, well, maybe we're going to meet for 2 to 3 hours at $300 an hour, but if we go over, it's going to be extra, blah, blah. And so the client doesn't really know how to budget or what that cost is going to be. They maybe have a range. Under our system, we tell them that we're going to meet with you X number of times a year, and that's included in our overall fee. And your fee is this, and there's nothing more for those. So the clients get a sense of, again, come back to a sense of peace of mind because they know that they've got a budgetary constraint that they've met with, and they're still getting accounting and tax and compliance services.
Do you want to earn CPE credit? Take this course of MyCPE 1 to earn free credit. Click the link in the description to get started.
Love it. Now we're going to come back on the pricing because that's also something that I want to talk about. A lot of people are stuck there. But before we go that, I gather that, you had this merger with Knock Accounting, right?
Yep.
So what did that bring to the table for your clients? Was it services, talent, or just that cultural fit?
A little bit of both. So Regina Knock, who is the owner of Knock Accounting, her and I met through a local state Michigan Association CPA small firm group that they had, task force at the time, and she really brought in a lot of the accounting and tax work. So she brought in a couple things. One, I was focusing on moving my firm into an advisory only, mostly advisory only firm with tax preparation and stuff. But the accounting was not the space that I enjoyed playing in. I thought it was very, at the time, is just very tedious work and prevented me from doing what I felt I was strong at, which was the advisory. So bringing in Regina was a great fit. Not only is she a great tax preparer, she's a whiz when it comes to like the QuickBooks Online and the client accounting and she enjoys doing the client accounting services and getting the clients up and running and working with that. And we've now built that team out and she's leading that client account. She's doing a wonderful job with that. So really she brought a couple things. She allowed me to have the accounting and really round out my practice or our practice now so that we're fully in a full compliance firm. But then that accounting leads to that advisory. We'd have arguments early on in our merger process that what was more important to the firm, and then the reality is as much as I thought advisory was, her comeback is you can't advise if you don't know what the numbers are, and
True.
So we kind of made it we kind of did a truce and said, okay, we're both equal in our own rights. And from an advisory perspective, she makes that a better by making sure my numbers in what our clients are seeing are correct.
Well, I could agree to you because that's exactly how a successful merger looks like, right? You understand the importance of everybody's roles and you identify that everybody's roles are important, and then
Sure.
It's a very beautiful cohesion. You said that one of your firm's real differentiators is learning to listen differently. And
Yeah.
that is what struck me. So what does that actually mean in practice?
It's funny because I have it's the old adage, you've got two ears and one mouth. So in the advisory, it's really listening to your clients and what are they saying, because sometimes clients don't necessarily come out and just say, this is my problem or this is what we need to solve for. They'll kind of beat around it, or they don't even know what they need to solve for. And so part of that is just listening to your clients, listening to what they have to say, absorbing it all in, and then kind of coming back at it from maybe a different approach, and then working with your clients to kind of fine tune where the true root of the problem is. So for me, listening allows me to get to the root of the problem so that I can really kind of solve the client's problem, as opposed to a lot of advisors will just start to come in and say, this is what you got to do. Boom, 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 right? And for me, I take the approach of, well, let's first hear your story. Let's hear your problems. Let's hear your pain points. I start off with every discovery meeting with talking to the client. And then I come back after, when we deliver the proposal, saying, based on what I heard from you, these are your pain points. Do we have any, and then I'll ask them, did I miss anything? Did we hear anything? And they normally say, no, this is everything that my problem is. They may not have said it specifically, right? But by listening to them and listening to their cues and what they're saying, you can pick up on where some of that is.
Well, I love that, because according to the AICPA's latest PCPS map survey, 52% of the firms have said that, deep client relationships are the number one driver of advisory growth.
Mhm.
So I would say that, listening isn't just soft skills, I think it's a business model, right?
Yes.
So how do you coach your team to shift from this reactive service to that kind of proactive listening?
I think that we inbred in it every day, and I recently had done a presentation to a group of other advisors of what we do and how we do things differently, and that that advisory mindset you have to live and breathe it every day. And that's what we do. We have our mission statement, our vision statement includes advisory and education and doing things differently, different wording in that, but they're posted on right in our lobby wall. So our clients see it the minute they come in. Every proposal delivery, I reiterate to our clients, this is our vision and mission, and that we're an advisory based firm. And so to me, it's really just, and we have team meetings once a week, and and we're a small team. We're a small team of 6, so it's easy to do. But it's just preaching and living the advisory format every day that we come in, and understanding that we are there to advise our clients, and that sometimes it's about listening to what their problems are, and not necessarily having a solution right away, but being able to come up with one later down the road or so.
Love it. I mean, like, you want to practice what you preach, right?
Right.
So, now is the time for a story. So, can you give us a real example where listening differently uncovered an advisory opportunity that might have otherwise been missed?
Sure. So, I called to the first client or a client that I just recently engaged with in an advisory, started or acquired a business from a previous owner, is in professional services. And as I was talking to her through her business and so forth, I could tell that we go through a pre-scripted, if you will, first advisory with clients, where we kind of educate them a little bit about what it means to be a business owner and the type of entities and so forth. And then she kept coming back to the same point of just not knowing if she was going to be able to afford anything, and was really concerned. But every time it would come back to that same thing. And so I said, okay, let's stop our advisory. Let's stop this, and let's go back, and let's now start to do a budget. And let's start to forecast out where you're at and where you're going to be at, and so forth. So we went through and we started building out a budget for her, and from there we built out a forecast and so forth. And I was able to demonstrate to her that she was going to be okay, that she was going to be making enough money to pay her bills, to pay her salary, and to pay her personal bills as well. Because that's when it comes down to owners. Yeah, the business is great, but really at the end of the day, they want to know how much money they're going to have so they can survive and they can live. And especially coming from a W-2, from her own being an employee for this company, now being the owner and solely responsible for the income, she was concerned about that. And I think that if I would have just said, okay, we're just going to continue on our normal our advisory delivery and go through my pre-scripted program that we have, I probably would have never been able to give her the peace of mind that she has. Right. And now we've used that as a baseline coming forward. Every time that we talk, and we're still continuing our advisory journey, we'll go reference back to that and go, okay, this is what we set up back 2 months ago. Where are we at in relation to that? Okay, we're still, and giving her the numbers, saying all you have to do is generate X number much in revenue on a weekly basis, and you're going to be okay. Right. So we break it down so listening to the fact that yes, she wants to know about how to run her business, but that wasn't her major concern at that period of point in time. So being flexible to say, okay, let's just time out. We'll get back to this. It's not that important. Let's get through this pain point now. And I think that really meant a lot to her, because now she was able to, I could see, you could physically see her shoulders just kind of start to, sag a bit, because she was just so relieved that, okay, I'm going to be okay. This was not a bad decision I made, right? Because, as being a new business owner, you're always second guessing, did I do the right thing? And so, that was rewarding for me.
Brilliant. And I really love that. I really love how you demonstrated that. It clearly shows one of the pillars that you've built, peace of mind, and
Right.
you literally gave her that peace of mind. So
right.
This is brilliant.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very
So
interesting. Now,
yeah,
of course, now once you have encountered these opportunities, right? Somebody reaches out to you, encountered it, okay, they can benefit from your advisory services. You have to structure them, right? It's not a one size fits all thing, right? It's each case
right.
is different. And this is where I guess, I've spoken to a lot of firm owners. I went to a webinar on tax advisory, and I think this is one of the places where a lot of firms get stuck, and that is pricing, right?
Yeah.
So how do you approach pricing advisory services at Capricor?
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.
Um, we look at it from a perspective of a couple things. When I say we get rid of time, we totally get rid of timesheets, but time doesn't necessarily have to be a out of the equation when you come to take a look at pricing things, because again, labor is our biggest cost. So understanding the fact that recouping the labor and putting an element of, okay, it's going to take 10 hours of staff time to deliver an advisory program or something, so let's take some sort of multiple of labor as part of that. But then I'll sit back and go, okay, but what are we truly delivering at this stage? More than 2 hours or whatever, we're also delivering them tools that they're going to be able to work on for the rest of their business career. And so we're giving them advice up front that they're going to, it's the old adage, you could give a person a fish and they eat for a day, teach them how to fish, they'll eat for years, right? So the same thing. So we try to then put some sort of value on that, whether it's just a little bit of a increase in market value or something along those lines. But we do start off with, the calculation is an hourly, maybe an hourly basis, but then we'll up it based on what we think the value is from there. And then there's standard pricing. So, if so, for example, one of our advisories is choice of entity, where we'll advise a client and teach them the differences between the various entities. We'll then talk to them and figure out we'll actually go through the analysis of what is their best choice of entity based on tax efficiencies and so forth. And then talk them through what does it mean by record keeping and all of that, from that choice of entity. So it's a couple hour session and so forth, but that's a standard price regardless of what client we see it with. So what we've done is even though we're customized, all of the elements that we piece together all have a standard pricing. And then we package those together, and that comes with our pricing. And I don't look at whether we've made money on a client on an individual basis. I try to, I've got metrics that I measure the firm on as a whole, as opposed to each individual piece, because it's too. I think we get lost in the micromanagement of our staff and our time when we start looking at, are we making money on a per job basis just based on a whip sheet? I think that's the worst way to manage a firm.
Mm-hmm.
And we
I love the way you say it,
Right. I mean, I did a presentation a couple of years ago to the Michigan Small Practitioners Conference, and it was called Life Without Timesheets. Being without timesheets at that point for 6 years, we have to learn to manage our firm differently. And I think that's the hard thing to do is because we're so used to managing our firm based upon a printout at the end of the month, or name a date. It's still always behind the times, right? You could do a whip report as of today, and it's still giving you what we spent time on up until today. So it's always a retroactive report. It's never anything that's real time. So then you're walking around, going up to your accountant going, why did you spend X number of hours on client XYZ? Right. And then we say, well, the client had a bank reconciliation problem or something like that. Okay, well, then we get to bill it. Well, then the client gets the bill and doesn't understand it. Whereas if you were to go to figure out a mechanism, and everybody can do a different mechanism. We sometimes during busy season will have daily stand-ups where we'll just meet with all our team and say, okay, what problems are we seeing? Or Regina will go through to the staff and say, I've noticed you've been working on this client for long. What's going on? Oh, we've got a bank rec issue. Okay, well, hold off. Let me talk to the client. Is it a change in work order? So do we have to go to the client and say, okay, we the scope has changed. We got to get a permission for. So now the client's informed, as opposed before they spend $1. Or we say that, okay, well, this is a teaching moment for my staff. So we become more managers of people as opposed to managers of paper, is the way I look at it.
Nice. You mentioned that, like, although it's all customized, but, you got like, there's standard price to everything, all of the products that
Sure.
you deliver into it. I think
Yeah.
what we call it as pricing buckets is what I
Yep.
think you call it. So, and I think it's a practical framework. So I completely agree with you on that. But can you just walk us through what those buckets really look like?
Sure. So I mean, we first and foremost, we break our firm as a sense of a pricing or product, if you will, services menu. We break it out into advisory services, and then we break it out into our what we call our core business services, which is our compliance-based services. So the advisory services are just based upon which advisory level we think that the client needs at that point in time, and that could be ongoing or upfront. And then we get into our compliance piece, and we break our compliances into three buckets. You've got tax and ongoing advisory, you've got accounting, and then you've got payroll related services or support. And then from within each of those buckets, we can pick a couple different or up to 3 or 4 different categories of each, variations of the. So for tax and ongoing, we have a 2 meeting with the client. And so all of our clients require some sort of ongoing advisory. Usually it's a one meeting once a year or 2 meetings a year, mid and year end. Plus there's always tax delivery meeting and so forth. So we're created at least 3 touch points. Well, maybe some clients only need 1 touch point. So we'll do that. So that's pick 1. So that picks the accounting, and now we go to that picks the tax one. Now we go to the accounting, and now we can either do full service, kind of a medium level where we're doing some direct, or we're just talking to the client on a quarterly or monthly basis. And then so we pick one out of those, and then we have another one in payroll. We don't do any payroll processing, but we do payroll support and 1099s and maybe shareholders. And so we'll pick one of those. And so the combination of those 3 are their customized service, and each of them have a price point for each of them. And then internally, we have the ability to modify that price point based upon a complexity factor. So as I like to have said when I was doing a presentation, if we know that the wife is doing the books, we already know that there's an increased complexity there because the wife's doing the book. So maybe it's going to be an increase in the accounting because we know we're going to be doing more work in the accounting side. So maybe that gets a factor of 1.5 as opposed to, or something along those lines. And sometimes if they got really clean books, maybe it's even a negative factor of, 0.95. So we have the ability to take that standard and go up and down. But that's kind of saying if everybody was the same, this is our starting point. And now we have to have reasons to adjust it up or down.
Nice. I really love that. I'm able to, in fact, resonate to you, to everything that you're saying. And I think it's a very beautiful framework that you got there. And I'm glad that you shared that on our podcast. In fact, while you're saying this, I've researched on pricing so much. In fact, I went through the CPA.com's advisory services report. And I surprisingly found that 68% of the firms, they cited the pricing confidence as the biggest hurdle in this advisory. They're just not confident to quote that price right. So how do you handle the scope creep or client expectations once you're inside one of those advisory engagements?
Within the advisory, we've got the ability to really control that's because we're driving the advisory side of it. And I look at it this way is that, ultimately we may have scripted deliverables to the client, such as a PowerPoint presentation on compensation analysis or something along those lines, and explaining to them why they need to take salary and so forth. But ultimately I tell the clients that we'll have these scripts, but if you want to go off script, we can do that. It's your ultimately 2 hours with one-on-one with me, and however you feel the need to get the benefit out of that is fine. I had a client that we had scripted, but then comes in and his whole day has gone to hell because somebody's something's blown up in his office or whatever, and an employee issue or something, and he wanted to talk all about that. I'm like, it's your 2 hours. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Just understand you're foregoing what I had planned, and maybe we could, and I always build a little extra so that we could pick up some if we've got some overlap. So that's all part of that. In the compliance piece in our core business services, we cast a pretty wide net and try to anticipate extra hours for some scope creep and things of that nature as we build in our pricing model. So our pricing models may be, case in point, we used to, and most CPAs are listening to this that used to, anybody that's on a national payroll service, it's great because we don't have to do the payroll. But the first time that they have a problem with payroll, that they get a notice, they're calling us to resolve the problem before, they're not even asking the ADPs, the paychecks, or whoever that's out there to help. They're calling us. So what we've done now is we've added in our compliance services, there's a piece for payroll support, meaning that we're going to build in some time or some factor that we're going to have to solve these problems for you. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but down the road, we're going to have to do that. So we've kind of anticipated that where we think we're going to get scope creep and kind of built it in already, that it's just going to happen and go from there. Now, if we get a major change in scope creep, so let's say we've got a client and they decide, I want to buy another business, or I want to buy a building, or I want to do something different that's outside the general. Now, all of a sudden, that becomes what we call a change order. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is not, maybe I'll listen to the first, meeting or so relative to what they have on plan. And then we'll have a conversation that any future work that I'm doing on this, please understand, is not part of your normal scope or the normal scope of work we're doing. It's extra. And would you like me to go ahead and quote you on what that is? And we'll try to figure out what we think we need to be doing with that, build in some extras, and then provide them with a quotation or proposal to do that work. So but as far as our staff, they've got some leeway to do some things that maybe are above and beyond. That goes to that customer care part of it. But we also talk with them, and if we find out that we're going way too far off the range, then this is when we have to kind of bring it back in and talk to the client.
And I guess, that's the only way to do it, because oftentimes, you're taken for granted that, hey, if you're doing this, you could definitely do that. So, I get that, and it's completely understandable. And I guess even for the clients, they should also understand this, that, there's a scope and you got to stick to the scope.
Right.
Sure, a little bit of variation, understandable, but significantly different. Think of it from a farm owner standpoint. You'll have to deploy more resources to just get that done.
Right. And we define in our proposals exactly what our scope is. It's not we're just going to do monthly accounting. This is what we're going to do on a monthly basis. This is what we're going to do for tax preparation. And so we clearly identify that, so we can come back to them and say, where does what you want me to do fit in this proposal? What line item here does it fit in? Because it really doesn't in my mind. And now, so we've got a little bit of a push. If the clients push back, we've got a little bit of a defense for that and so forth. So we try to protect ourselves. But I'll be honest with you, in the 3 years that we've really, this has been ongoing for over the last 8, but we've really kind of got it down to a science over the last 3. We've had very little scope creep or change orders, because we've been able to kind of identify exactly what we're going to be doing for our clients, and we've kind of kept them out of that scope creep range.
Nice. You cracked the code.
I don't know if I cracked the code. Part of it might be just that some of this is, if a client has an extra hour phone call because they want to talk about some business that they're thinking of doing, and we're flushing it out, and that's all that we're doing, that to me isn't a change order. That's just me providing good customer service to my client. And we build in phone calls and that ability that they're going to call us a few hours during the year into our billing anyway. So it's to me, it's just fine.
Nice. Now, you mentioned that, you got a small firm, you got 6 people on your team, but you cannot scale advisory if it's just you or the partner doing the work, right?
Sure.
So how do you bring your team along on this advisory journey?
So that's that's our next big step. And I'll be honest with you, right now I'm having too much fun delivering the advisory, and I don't mind delivering the advisory. I'd rather step out of the other services and move more into just advisory delivery as I start to look at where my individual personal journey needs to go. But really, it's we don't have the lower staff yet to be able to bring them up to deliver advisory. That is the next step in our firm's internal journey, is to start to find those right people that we're going to be able to do the knowledge transfer. In the way that I think of doing it is like, if anything else, is you bring them along, you allow them to shadow what you're doing, and you start to let them, and then it's a process, right? They shadow you, then all of a sudden you take a back seat, they lead the journey, and then they're off on their own. So it's going to be a long process once we start to find the right staff to go ahead and do that. But right now it hasn't been much of an issue as a sense of the delivery of the advisory. The other part of it is some of our advisory is very basic and can be delivered almost by anybody that has an understanding of being able to teach and to educate clients, because it is very basic. Some of it can be considered very basic knowledge, and very little knowledge is needed, except for the upper end, which is always where I'll have to play. I'll always have to be at that upper end of that advisory level. If somebody's talking about succession planning or selling their business or so forth, that's going to involve me, because that's where my skill set is at right now.
Rightly so. It's the high level thinking processes where you should be more involved, and as you get those start identifying those other people to take on this other stuff, which is regular business as usual.
Right. Yeah.
So-
and even if I look at the journey that we've gone through, 3 years ago when Regina came in, or 5 years ago now, I think 21, she didn't deliver any advisory. She didn't even have the confidence. It's only been over the last couple of years that she's starting to gain the confidence to deliver that advisory and so forth. So again, part of that is just making sure she's brought into every advisory. She's learning and building her confidence, and saying that you can do this is understandable, or us coaching her. So not only am I coaching my clients, I'm making sure I'm coaching my team. And I firmly believe that as the leader, I have to, coach my team. And case in point, we brought our office manager now is going to be now our full-time tax preparer. She's done enough preparation and pre-preparation in our processes that she feels comfortable preparing tax returns. And so we're automatically going to elevate her in. So it's just constantly making sure they're included in the process, that eventually people will start to pick up. And next thing you know, they're going to be able to deliver it better than I can.
Wow. What you're doing is, something that a lot of firms lack, because you hire somebody and then you don't really see those opportunities wherein those individuals have upskilled to that level that you're able to identify and then put them into that level. So this is truly amazing.
Yeah, part of it is, I'll be honest with you, part of it is not a necessity, right? As a small firm, you've got to maximize your resources, and our employees are our biggest resources. And so we don't have, unitaskers in our office. We try to get them to be, multidisciplined in various things. And I firmly believe in empowering my staff. I really, truly do not I don't want the firm to be about me. I said that from the onset when we picked the name Capricor. It was going to be the team approach. And so now you've got to the point where my phone, even though we're busy out there and the phones are ringing, a lot of it's not coming to me, because the staff is being able to intercept and answer the questions first and foremost. And that is perfect for me. If a client has a major issue or something like that, then it gets to me, and then we go from there. So, we're getting the firm to the vision I had when I first started it. And it's always ongoing and evolutionary, but it's all about empowering your staff. And I tell every new practitioner that I talk to, hire a staff person, empower them, and tell them that their job is to kick your tail end when you're not doing your job. They need to be your boss. And that's the way I treat my admin team, and that's the way I treat everybody is if I need to do something, you need to let me know.
Oh, absolutely. And you're not wrong there. There's data to support this. There's a Gallup research that has shown that employees that were involved in decision making are 4.6 times more likely to feel empowered. So
Right.
you rightly got
Yep.
that right. Now, let's look ahead, right? Where do you see tax advisory headed in the next 3 to 5 years? Are we looking at more automation, more
Oh,
specialization,
it's
or something else?
I tell everybody my crystal ball has been broken for 35 years and still can't get it fixed. But if I was to sit and look at where do I see things going in the advisory, I think the tax advisory is going to become more and more important as we go along because of the fact of the rules are not getting any more easier. I mean, we look at
Yeah,
the tax act that just passed. It as much as it
yeah,
kept things the same, it added a whole new complication of things. And so I see us as in the advisory format for us to be able to deliver advisory and explain to the clients and the planning and so forth. And as you got succession planning coming up, you've got a lot of baby boomers are transitioning and wealth strategies and things of that nature. There's going to be a high need for advisory. Where I think I see the interesting, I don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point in time, we're going to see more automation in the tax preparation services. But I think that's
yeah.
just going to lead advisory to, because now all of a sudden the tax preparation is going to be automated, but now the advisory is going to have to help interpret what that says to the taxpayer and what it means and what we should be doing about it.
Interesting. And what's next for Capricor? What's the part of the journey that you're most excited about?
Oh, I think that we saw some tremendous growth this year in our advisory services, and in general. I look forward to our growth. I think we're going to be seeing some more staff come on board and over the next year or so to kind of again get we've just shored up the accounting side of the practice of the client accounting services. Now it's really, let's shore up the tax services a little bit more and allow me to really function where I want to function, which is in the advisory and growing the firm, creating more strategic partnerships with advisors and outside partners, to really just kind of get this to the next level. I mean, they always say that there's a certain level that you get to, and it takes a lot longer and harder to get from one level to the next. So we're approaching that. So getting the work in, rolling up the sleeves and getting this firm to where I want it to be. That's where I'm excited about. I'm excited about the growth and the potential that we have. We have a really good team, and I'm excited for us to grow it.
Brilliant. Well, good luck to that, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
And you've been advising a lot of advisors as well. So for the firms that are just starting their shift into advisory, what's the one piece of advice you would leave them with?
I give a lot of advice out to them. Part of it is just do it. Just the advisory is people may not know what it means to be an advisory, and for me, it's delivering a predetermined amount of advisory programs and having a stable of programs to offer clients and so forth, as opposed to just saying I'm an advisor. It's really kind of being deliberate about being that advisor. If you want to shift to an advisory, that means that get off the hourly rate, start to try to figure out value, start to look at value pricing, and start to really identify when you say you're an advisor, what does it mean for you? Every CPA firm you talk to, and you can talk to probably 100 of them, and I bet you 90% of them will say we're advisors. I mean, half of them say we're advisory firms, but what does that mean? Before Capricor, we were advisors, but we let the client's lead come to us, and then we'd advise them. We're being upfront and saying, and we're having a predetermined advisory level of services. You're going to go through these 5 basics, sessions that have these themes to them, and it's going to make your business better. So be deliberate about your advisory as opposed to just being passive, I guess would be the advice I would give.
I love it. I love it. Now, before I let you go, I'll just have some quick, I have some questions prepared, some rapid fire questions. Whatever comes to your mind, just let me, just go ahead. All right. So, a book or a podcast that you're currently loving?
A book that I'm currently loving it's called The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. It's a great book about kind of letting go and not worrying about what you can't control. and it's been very eye-opening for me. So it's been a very good book to read.
Love it. Love it. I'm sure a lot of our listeners will also benefit from that. Now, one advisory tool or system that you swear by.
So I guess an overall system, our firm is a content writers practice forward firm. We've been a 5-year firm for that. So that system there, as a sense of our journey to advisory, has been instrumental in our firm's transformation. Now, there's other advisory program systems that teach the same thing, but Thompson's was good. But as a tool, there's a couple tools. I've created my own pricing tool that's helped with determination of client pricing and so forth. And then I think the other one is the analysis that we do between an S corporation and non-S corporation to look at the overall tax savings. So those are some tools that I like to play around with, and we've got some other ones. I'm a very big Excel guy, and so if I can build it in Excel, I will. And so anything that I can do in Excel, I love.
Nice. Yes, Excel has always been, and it will probably continue to stay. Excel is not going anywhere.
No.
All right. Now, biggest myth about tax advisory that you'd like to bust?
I think from there, I think that the fact that clients come in and think that we can get them down to zero tax. Tax advisory is not about eliminating your tax. Tax advisory is about creating tax efficiency and making sure that you're paying the right amount of tax at the right time. I want my clients to pay tax because it means they're successful, they're making money. There's really no the era of tax shelters and getting down to zero taxation is no longer a reality. And then to go along with that, the myth that tax advisory is telling your client on December 30th, oh, you've got too much profit, go out and buy a piece of machinery, right? Because in my mind, have you even looked at the tax brackets or the tax rates? If I'm only saving you 12%, because maybe they hadn't paid in enough taxes, well, my client just needs to buck up and pay the tax. At a 12% tax rate, I'm not going to tell you to go buy something so you pay zero tax. I'd rather have that machinery bought in the next year and save future tax dollars. So I think just going from advisory and getting to zero to being tax efficient is what I would like to see more advisors focus in on.
Nice. I love it. Now, one last question. One client conversation you'll never forget.
Oh my goodness. I've had so many of them. I don't know if I can remember. I mean, the one that truly, the one that I used in the earlier example, that sticks out a little bit of just helping that client come out. But a lot of them is I think that I had a doctor come in and started to talk to me about how they're doing all this stuff. And then as I sat down and talked to them, and because he was doing alternative health medicine, was not necessarily doing your standard doctor patient relationship, come in, sit down, what's wrong, and pay. They were really creating a program of alternative medicine where the traditional model has failed the patient, and now they're looking for alternatives to maybe to solve it. And I sat down with them and I said, doctor, at the end of the day, you're not treating a patient, you're actually providing them a solution. You're providing them with hope, right? And so we need to change your billing so that we're billing based upon that premise as opposed to a per visit process, right? What are you providing for them? You're giving them a solution, you're giving them a cure and our hope for a cure and so forth. And so we had a really good conversation around that theory and how to price it and how for him to still be able to deliver but do it in a way that was fitting his alternative model. And we still, to this day, we still tweak that model a bit, but he's been very appreciative for having that first conversation with me, because it changed his idea of how he should be delivering medical services to his clients and how he should be pricing them. And I think that really kind of resonated, especially with him and the type of medicine he was doing.
Nice. You kind of like just, got him interested into the advisory model, a solution-based advisory model.
Right. And I do that a lot with clients is we'll sit down. I mean, I've done conversations with clients for a restaurant, let's say, and we'll go through, and they've never thought of it, but I've broken down their break even to what's the average ticket have to be per person for them to be
Yeah.
break even, right? And they don't even realize that. So it's those aha moments, and we have a lot of those aha moments because I'll look at things a different way. And I've had a lot of clients saying, "Thank you for just the conversation because you've made me look at it from a way I never thought of." I may not have the solution, but I'll definitely have the conversation with them. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? What about this? And now they've got food for thought, and they'll come back to me and said, "We looked at it this way, and this is what we came up with," and then we'll finish our conversation from there. So yeah, it's all the conversations I've had with clients. Everyone is so unique and so different.
Nice, nice. Well, James, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
I think your emphasis on listening differently is exactly what this profession needs right now, right? So, and for our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Jamie and Capricor, check out the show notes. And don't forget, this episode is also approved for CP credit. So claim that on MyCPE1. So with that, until next time, I'm Saul, and this was We're Trying to Figure Out. Till then, take care and keep innovating in everything that you do. Cheers.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.